Paid just 20 to sabotage a date, she unexpectedly found a life-changing love with a CEO. Sarah wiped down the diner table, the smell of fried food and coffee wafting around her as the clanking of dishes and chatter filled her ears. It was just another Thursday in Chicago, skyscrapers casting long shadows as the city buzzed with energy. 20 for a little chaos? It's worth a shot. Mia's voice broke through her thoughts, a grin spreading across her face. The idea sounded ridiculous, sabotaging a date. But the temptation of quick cash was too alluring. What do you mean sabotage? Sarah feigned shock, laughter bubbling up as she imagined herself causing a scene. You want me to just ruin a poor guy's night? But inside, something stirred. Could this be her ticket to a little extra cash? She shrugged and said, all right, let us do it. The target was Jake, a young CEO with a sleek car and enough charm that even the humidity of Chicago couldn't dampen his allure. She had seen him around, the talk of the town, embodying everything that seemed out of reach to her. As she prepared for the mission, her heart raced not just for the money, but for the thrill of stepping outside her comfort zone. That evening, as she stepped into the upscale restaurant, panic mingled with excitement. The swanky decor felt foreign, a stark contrast to her small diner. When she spotted Jake, he was everything Mia had described: handsome, confident, and effortlessly engaging. She couldn't believe she was about to interrupt his night as a mistaken villain. Clenching the edge of the table, she gathered her courage. Moments later, she strutted up to their table, totally ready to ruin his night. But the instant she locked eyes with Jake, everything shifted. He smiled, a genuine, warm smile that sent a jolt through her. Can I help you? He asked, curiosity dancing in his gaze. Instead of chaos, warmth bubbled between them as they exchanged banter. She deflected questions about her job and life, but all the while, the truth gnawed at her. Here was a man who, despite possessing everything she thought would make someone happy, radiated loneliness that echoed her own. Well, for a CEO, your dinner seems awfully mundane, Sarah quipped, her heart racing. He laughed, genuinely, and she felt something inside her soften. It didn't take long to realize there was more beneath his polished surface, and that connection started to bridge the gap between their worlds. But the weight of her upbringing crashed into her thoughts. He's rich, her parents' voices echoed, warning her against any entanglement with someone like him. She fought the flicker of something growing between them, afraid to tread where she believed she didn't belong. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Just as Sarah decided to step back, a scandal rocked Jake's startup. Rumors spiraled, and suddenly, the glamorous life he led felt precarious. Panic settled in her chest. What was she really willing to risk? In the clash of their worlds, both families erupted, exposing their biases and fears, forcing Sarah to confront her unspoken loyalty. Could love truly bridge such vast chasms? As Jake's gaze searched hers, desperation and yearning hung in the air, leaving her pulse quickening with uncertainty. Under the shimmering Chicago lights, as laughter faded and tension crackled, Sarah stood on the precipice of something magnificent, yet terrifying. Could her heart let go of what she knew to embrace something beautiful? As the evening went on, the initial thrill of the moment began to dissipate into a heavy silence. Sarah's mind whirred with conflicting emotions, a mix of excitement and fear tangled together like the twisting alleys of the city outside. Jake sat across from her, all handsome charm, yet she could sense his unease. Was this just another night for him, or was something deeper lurking behind that confident smile? Everything okay? You seem distracted, Jake said, his brow furrowing slightly. His concern brought her back to reality. Yeah, I'm just thinking about how different this all is, she replied, her voice a touch shaky. The glitz of the restaurant, the elegance surrounding them, it was worlds away from the worn diner where she spent her days. Different good or different bad? He pressed, those piercing blue eyes studying her intently. Sarah felt exposed, as if all her insecurities were laid bare before him. Honestly, a bit of both, she admitted, tucking a loose strand of hair behind her ear. She could almost see the walls she had built around herself crumbling down, piece by piece. Yeah, I get that. Sometimes, stepping out of your comfort zone can lead to unexpected things, Jake said, leaning in closer. That easy charm of his was palpable, and she couldn't help but feel her heart flutter. The thrill wasn't just from the chaos, it was this connection that both frightened and excited her. But no sooner had the words left his lips than the weight of her decision rushed back to her. She had come here to ruin this date, not to fall for its intended victim. The thought gnawed at her, insistent and sharp. Why was everything suddenly so complicated? Just then, Sarah felt a buzz in her pocket. She glanced down, seeing Mia's name flash across the screen. She hesitated. Should she answer and explain this whole mess? But then again, she didn't even know what to say. She forced herself to put her phone back on the table, shaking off the urge to retreat to the familiar. Hey, if you don't mind me asking, what do you do? Jake suddenly asked, breaking the heavy silence again. With a gulp, Sarah felt the tension re-emerge. I work at a diner. You know, just flipping pancakes and serving coffee. The mockery danced at the edges of her tongue, but it caught in her throat. Jake's eyes widened. Really? I've heard it's those places where you actually talk to people, where human connection happens. His words struck a chord deep within her. She had always been told that her job was something to look down upon, but he was painting it in a different light. You could say that, she replied, her tone softening. Meanwhile, the noise around them faded to a dull hum, everything else disappearing. It was just the two of them, sharing stories, unearthing bits of their lives. Jake spoke of ambitions, dreams, and the burden of expectations on his shoulders. Sarah listened, and for the first time in a long time, she felt seen. But as the conversations deepened, so did the trouble brewing inside her. In that moment, she realized just how easily she had slipped into a comfortable rhythm with Jake. It terrified her. If she let herself fall, would she be able to get back up when it all inevitably crashed down? Before she could answer, a couple at the adjacent table erupted in laughter, jolting them back to their surroundings. Sarah snapped her attention back to Jake, who was watching her with an intensity that made her heart race. Maybe we're not so different after all, he murmured, a soft smile playing on his lips. What would that mean for them? And more importantly, could she allow herself to indulge in something that felt so right but was rooted in a lie? The weight of her choices began to simmer beneath the surface. Just then, the waiter approached, delivering the check. Sarah glanced at it, her heart sinking. Would this truly be their last moment together? And as she met Jake's gaze again, determination flared inside her. Could she be brave enough to reshape her story in the light of this unexpected connection? As she opened her mouth to speak, uncertainty washed over her. Tension lingered like a thick fog, and that one question loomed above them, demanding an answer. Would she risk it all for the chance to chase love, or would she pull back and retreat into what she knew? With a deep breath, she prepared to make the choice that would change everything. Sarah's heart raced as she stared at Jake, her mind a whirlwind of thoughts. Could she really let go of her carefully constructed plan? The harsh truth of her original mission loomed like a dark cloud above them, threatening to unleash a storm. Yet, his gaze held her captive, urging her to reveal the truth, to be honest for the first time in what felt like ages. Jake, she said, her voice barely above a whisper, trembling with the gravity of what she was about to say. She took a deep breath, the words almost forming at the tip of her tongue. But what would he think? Would he walk away if he knew? Suddenly, the clatter of silverware at the nearby table jolted her back, and the courage she had mustered slipped away. She could see the flicker of confusion on Jake's face, a question lingering in his eyes. Did he sense her internal struggle? Hey, you okay? He leaned in a fraction closer, creating an opening for her to step through. But instead of diving into the depths of vulnerability, she let out a nervous laugh, masking the turmoil beneath. Yeah, I'm okay. Just tired of the same old routine, I guess, she said, surprised by her own words. It felt like a half-truth, but it also held a hint of hope. Jake nodded, contemplative. Sometimes change is what we need. Oh, you wouldn't believe how much pressure there is from everyone around me. It gets suffocating. His openness made her heart warm, a stark contrast to the chilly knot of dishonesty winding in her stomach. I can only imagine, she replied, intrigued by this side of him. Having people expect so much can really wear you down. He gave a weak smile, glancing down as if ashamed of the weight he carried. I sometimes wish to escape it all. Just a regular life without all the noise. Just flipping pancakes? She said, her eyes lighting up at the thought. His laughter came easily, a melody of relief washing over them. Yeah, something like that. Simple conversations, no formalities. For a moment, the tension ebbed. They chatted freely, building connections like bridges between two separate worlds. But in the back of her mind, the shadows of her intentions lurked, whispering warnings of what lay ahead. But then, the conversation took a turn. So, what is the craziest thing you've ever done? Jake asked, turning to face her more directly. His interest visibly piqued in that instant. Sarah's heart hammered in her chest. Should she tell him about the plan, the sabotage? Or reveal that she was on a mission to disrupt his perfect life? Her stomach twisted at the thought. It was one thing to pretend, but to admit the truth? She started, caught in a web of indecision. She could feel the weight of his gaze, the kindness in it almost disarming. The fork in the road stood starkly out before her. Risk everything, or continue the charade. Before she could respond, the waiter returned, placing a dessert menu in front of them. Can I offer you two something to share? He asked, his cheerful tone cutting through the moment. Sarah couldn't help but smile. The laughter of couples around them felt almost magical, transient moments of happiness. Yet here she was, teetering on the brink of honesty, faced with her own choices. You know, Jake said thoughtfully, interrupted by the waiter's offer. You have to try the cheesecake here. It's ridiculous. His eyes lit up, and Sarah nodded along, trying to mask her turmoil. As they ordered dessert, a sense of longing mixed with panic brewed within her. Could she remain in his world, the world she didn't belong to, weaving love among the lies she had spun? As they waited, the world outside continued its dance of lights and sounds. She felt the distinct ache of wanting to confess, mixed with the fear of losing him, of ruining what was unfolding. Just then, in that moment of sweetness anticipation, she found herself whispering, "What if I told you that I was brought here to ruin this date?" The words slipped out, and she held her breath, waiting for his reaction, an emotional storm brewing on the horizon. Would this be the end of it all, or the beginning of something they could never have anticipated? Jake's expression shifted, and Sarah braced herself for what would come next. Time seemed to stretch, a heavy pause settling around them. Jake's mouth opened slightly, his surprise evident. The noise of the restaurant faded into a distant hum as he processed her words. Sarah could feel every heartbeat, the mounting tension suffocating, yet strangely magnetic. Wait, what? He finally managed, his brow furrowing in confusion. No, it's not what you think. She blurted out, her voice rising a pitch. Panic coursed through her. This wasn't how it was supposed to go. I didn't mean to say it like that. Why were you brought here to ruin the date? Jake asked, his tone a mixture of concern and curiosity. He leaned back slightly, crossing his arms as if the physical distance could shield him from what she might reveal. Because I was hired, she stammered, the truth unraveling with her hesitation. To mess things up for you. I thought it would be a simple job, but then everything changed. His expression shifted from confusion to something deeper. Hurt. Anger? So this was all just a setup? No. Yes and no. I didn't plan to like you. Her confession came tumbling out in a rush. It started as a mission, but you made it real, she continued, her words weaving together a tapestry of emotion that seemed impossible to untangle. You're not what I expected. I just wanted to know what it felt like to breathe outside the pressure, and somehow, here you are, and I'm lying? He finished for her, his voice low. Sarah's heart sank. I never meant for this to happen, she admitted, tears stinging her eyes. I don't want to lose you. Jake ran a hand through his hair, processing everything. The emotional roller coaster showed on his face, disbelief twisting into a deep frown. And you thought this was a game? It wasn't a game. I thought I could just get through it, and then I'd leave. But every moment with you was different. More real than I thought it could be. The space between them crackled with tension, every second pulling them closer together and pushing them apart. Sarah, he said, voice heavy with disbelief, I actually liked you. I've been myself with you. All this time, it was just a plan for you? I didn't want it to be, she whispered, feeling a pang of regret. I wanted to be honest. And now? The question hung in the air, a poignant reminder of the fragile thread that bound them. I don't want to hide anymore. I want to be real with you, she murmured, desperation lacing her voice. I care about you, Jake. I don't want this to end. His eyes searched hers, grappling with the weight of betrayal and the flicker of something softer. Do you think I can trust you now? She nodded slowly, each beat pounding in her chest as hope wrestled with fear. I'll prove it to you. Let me show you the truth. As the waiter returned with their dessert, the moment that had once felt like the sweetness of cheesecake now bore a bittersweet heaviness. Taking a deep breath, Sarah leaned in closer. How about we start here? A second chance? No lies, just us? Jake sighed deeply, contemplating her words as uncertainty flickered across his face. This is a lot to unpack. I know. As Sarah curled her fingers around his wrist, she silently wished for a shift, a transformation that would transcend this moment of chaos. Can I really trust you? He asked, a hint of vulnerability breaking through. I hope so, she replied softly, gripping his hand tighter. Because I want to be in your life for real. Will you let me? Outside, the city lights twinkled like stars, their brilliance muted by the storm of emotions inside. For Sarah, everything hinged on Jake's response. A flicker of uncertainty shielded his gaze, and just as she felt the weight of loss loom heavy, he opened his mouth to speak, each word teetering on the edge of a decision that could redefine everything. Sarah awaited his reply, her heart pounding relentlessly, knowing this could change everything once more. Would he choose to trust her, or would the walls come crumbling down? Jake's mouth moved, but no sound came out. The seconds turned into eternities as his eyes locked on hers. Sarah could almost hear her heart racing, each thump echoing louder than the voices around them. The waitress hovered nearby, dessert forgotten, sensing the charged silence but unsure if she should interrupt. Say something, she urged softly, her voice barely above a whisper, laced with fear and hope. I just don't understand how it got to this point, Jake admitted, shaking his head as if to clear the confusion swirling in his mind. You came here to ruin my night. And now his voice broke slightly, glancing away as the weight of the situation sank in. It feels like everything I thought I knew about you was a lie. I get it. I should have been upfront, Sarah said, frustration spilling over her words. I never thought I'd actually fall for you. But here I am, sitting across from a guy who sees me for more than just some job. Maybe I should have seen the signs, he murmured, frustration painted across his face. You were too good to be true, and I let myself get swept up. Each word cut Sarah like glass. She had wanted to be brave, to be honest and raw, but now she felt the floor shift beneath her feet. I don't want you to think of me like that, she pleaded. I want to be real, Jake. I didn't mean to hurt you. He held her gaze for a moment longer, searching for sincerity, for a hint of the connection they had shared. The flicker of hope in his eyes was quickly extinguished by doubt. But can I trust you now? The question hung heavy. Would she be able to prove herself worthy of his trust? I'll do anything to show you that I mean it, she said, each word fueled by a fierce determination. Let me start over. I'll tell you everything, no secrets. He leaned back in his chair, crossing his arms once more, this time as if guarding his heart against the truth that threatened to spill forth. The tension was palpable, a silent battle between hope and hurt. Tell me everything then, Jake said, each word laced with a challenge. Okay, she took a deep breath, feeling the pressure building. I was hired by someone who wanted to sabotage your date to get back at you for some business dealings. At first, it was just a routine job for me. I needed the cash. But as I got to know you, everything changed. It was so easy to like you, your laughter, your kindness. You were real, and I wanted to be a part of your life. Jake's expression remained cool, yet the rigidity in his posture softened slightly. So you did this for money? For a job? It started that way, she stammered, the vulnerability setting in. But this has turned into something so different. Something I never expected. He rubbed his temple, the weight of her confession settling heavily. And what if I can't just let this go? What if I can't trust you again? Then I'll have to earn it back, Sarah said, nodding, conviction striking through the fear. But I promise I won't give up. I want to show you that I'm ready to be real, together. His eyes flickered with something, perhaps a glimmer of hope resting against the facade of doubt. But it was fleeting, hardly enough to shift the tide. The restaurant carried on around them, oblivious to their quiet storm. Their dessert lay untouched, a sweet reminder of what lingered in the air. I don't know if I can get there so soon, Sarah, Jake replied, a trace of softness breaking through his sternness. But you've already got my attention. With that, Sarah felt the adrenaline rush through her. A small step forward, but it was a step, nonetheless. She took a deep breath and squeezed his hand again, a gesture of solidarity amidst a sea of uncertainty. Maybe we can take it one day at a time, she ventured, a tentative smile creeping onto her face. Starting with dessert? Jake chuckled softly, the weight in the air beginning to lighten. I guess we can't leave all this cheesecake uneaten, can we? As laughter broke the tension, Sarah felt a flicker of warmth return to the table. It was fragile, yet it felt like the first tender spark of trust. She longed for it to grow, hoping to build something beautiful from the ashes of their chaotic beginning. But as they shared smiles over frozen dessert, a shadow loomed at the entrance of the restaurant. Someone from her past was watching, intent on delivering a message that could shatter their fragile truce. Would theirs be a love strong enough to weather the storm? Jake took a slow bite of the cheesecake, relishing the smooth texture and creamy taste. With that first bite, a tentative silence settled over the table, broken only by the sounds of clinking forks and hushed conversations around them. Sarah watched him closely, trying to read his thoughts as he chewed. Would he let the moment linger, or let the past haunt them? Not bad, he said finally, placing his fork down. Surprisingly sweet, just like the company. Her heart swelled at the compliment, but the shadow at the restaurant entrance caught her eye again. She instinctively turned her head, and her stomach sank. There he was, Jason, the guy who had hired her, the mastermind behind the plot to ruin Jake's date. He stood there, arms crossed, an unimpressed look etched on his face. The piece of paper crumpled in his hand was her ticket to trouble. Hey, are you okay? Jake's voice pulled her back to reality. His brows knitted in concern as he followed her gaze. Yeah, I just let us focus on us right now, she lied, trying to shake off the uneasiness that had settled in her chest. She burst into a smile, feeling the warmth of his presence. But the flicker of doubt returned as she glanced back at Jason. His lips curled into a smirk, and she knew he wouldn't leave without making his presence known. Sarah, Jason called out, striding toward the table with an air of arrogance. The low hum of conversations faded, and all eyes turned their way. Fancy seeing you here. I'm glad you decided to show up. Jake stiffened slightly in his seat, the lightness of their moment dissipating with Jason's arrival. Do you know him? He questioned, a tightness creeping into his tone. Just someone from my past, she replied quickly, trying to downplay the tension. But even as the words left her mouth, she felt the gravity of Jason's presence. Jason flashed a mischievous grin, leaning on the table, making it clear he wasn't done yet. I didn't expect to see my favorite little sabotage artist with a CEO. Guess I didn't know you had it in you. Jake shot Sarah a glance, and the hurt in his eyes sent a chill through her. Is this the reason you were really here tonight? No, it's just, she stammered, her voice wavering under the weight of the truth. This was a moment she had dreaded, and she felt the walls closing in around her. Don't let her fool you, man, Jason interrupted, fixing his gaze on Jake. She was hired to ruin your night, remember? Can you trust her now? The accusation hung in the air, sharp and biting. Jake recoiled slightly, and Sarah's heart raced. She needed to fix this, show him that she was more than a pawn in someone else's game. Jake, listen, she said urgently, her voice rising above the chaos swirling inside her. I regret everything about what happened. I was wrong to let it happen at all. But my feelings for you are real. This isn't some job for me anymore. He opened his mouth to speak, but before he could respond, Jason's interjection drowned out any chance of clarity. Just think about it, Jake. How can you believe anything she says? The silence that followed felt like a chasm opened wide between them. Sarah's heart raced as she searched Jake's face for any hint of understanding, any sign that he could see through the lies that painted their past. Then Jake leaned forward, expression serious. I need a moment alone with Sarah, okay? Jason's eyes narrowed, clearly annoyed but relenting. Fine, but I'll be waiting. He stepped back, shooting Sarah one last glance filled with unspoken threats. The tension thickened. Jake and Sarah faced each other, the cheesecake now forgotten on the table. The moment hung delicately between them, charged with uncertainty. Is everything you said true? He asked, his voice low. Did you really mean it? Sarah swallowed hard, the weight of her deception unbearable now. Yes, I meant it. I want this with you, I just didn't know how. I didn't expect to fall for you. The flicker of hope ignited in his eyes, but it was paired with a storm of uncertainty. Can you handle the consequences of what you did? As Sarah opened her mouth to reply, her mind raced. It felt like all the air had been sucked out of the room, and the reality of their situation hit her. Could they really move past this? Would they ever escape the shadows lurking in the distance? Her heartbeat drummed like a warning, urging her to be brave. I'll do whatever it takes to prove it. Just give me a chance. As Jake considered her words, a faint sound of the restaurant crowd faded again. The challenge now was not only about revealing the truth, but fighting against the ghosts of her past. Would it be enough to save their budding relationship? And then, from across the restaurant, Jason's voice rang out again. One more choice, Sarah? You know what happens when you cross me. The weight of his threat settled over the table, and Sarah realized the game was far from over. Jake's eyes narrowed as he processed Sarah's words. She could see the conflict swirling within him, the fight between his emotions and the uncertainty of the truth. The short pause felt endless, stretching out like a tightrope under immense tension. Just give me a chance? He echoed, a mix of hope and skepticism playing on his features. You really think we can move past this, after everything? The anxious energy in the air pulsed around them, and Sarah felt the walls of the restaurant closing in, the soft murmurs of patrons fading into a distant hum. She took a deep breath, desperate to reassure him. I know it sounds impossible, but I swear what we have is real. I can't change the past, but I can work to make things right for both of us. His gaze softened slightly, but doubt still clouded his eyes. How? The word fell from his lips like a challenge, drawing them back into reality. Sarah bit her lip. How could she articulate the mess of emotions she felt? Jason's presence lurked like a storm cloud, threatening to break their delicate connection. I'll confront him. I'll tell him to leave us alone. I can't let him ruin this for us, she said, forcing conviction into her voice. That Jake's expression shifted, worry creasing his brow. You're going to stand up to Jason? He's not just an annoying ex. He's dangerous, Sarah. She nodded, feeling the weight of his concern deep inside her. I know that, but I won't let fear dictate my life anymore. Not when I have something worth fighting for. For a moment, they merely stared at each other, suspended in the electric moment of shared fear and courage. Then, to her surprise, Jake reached across the table, taking her hand firmly in his. The warmth of his touch ignited a flicker of courage in her chest. Okay, let us do this, he said quietly. But if you're going to face him, I'm going to be with you every step of the way. His words wrapped around her like a shield, and she felt a swell of gratitude. Thank you, she whispered, her heart racing at the thought of having him by her side. But before they could build on that newfound determination, Jason reappeared, a triumphant gleam in his eyes. Well, look at this cozy little moment, he sneered. I would have thought you'd chosen a different path, Sarah. How sweet. Jake tightened his grip on Sarah's hand, standing up as though ready to defend her. We never chose this was all you, he shot back. Jason shrugged, rolling his eyes. Just keeping it interesting. After all, you didn't think I'd let you off easy, did you? Sarah felt cold dread wash over her. What do you want from me, Jason? He leaned in closer, a sinister smile spreading across his face. Oh, it's simple. I want you to remember who you're dealing with. You think you can just cut ties? It doesn't work that way. There's always a cost, and I'm coming to collect. Her heart raced as Jason's words hung in the air like a bad storm. Stay away from us, Jake said, his voice steady but filled with an underlying tension. Oh, I want you to just stay away. I'll make sure you understand the stakes of this little game. Jason replied coldly before turning to leave, throwing a final glance back over his shoulder. Enjoy your date while you can. Sarah watched him walk away, her insides twisting with fear, but she also felt a swelling resolve. She turned to Jake, their hands still intertwined, and whispered, whatever he throws at us, we can face it together, right? The moment lingered, their connection fortified by the pressure of the situation. Jake nodded, determination flickering in his eyes. Together, as they shared a firm squeeze of each other's hands, a fresh wave of resolve surged through their veins. But in that moment of solidarity, an unsettling thought struck Sarah. What kind of disaster was Jason planning next? The world outside dimmed into a blur, and Sarah realized that while they had each other, the battle was only just beginning. The restaurant's ambience dimmed in contrast to the flickering tension around their table. Jake and Sarah remained locked in their silent agreement, their resolve drawing strength from the warmth of their clasped hands. But even as adrenaline pumped through her veins, Sarah couldn't shake the gnawing fear that clung to her like a shadow. "Let us get out of here," Jake said, breaking the charged silence. His voice was firm, edged with urgent concern. "Yeah, okay," she replied, reluctantly letting go of his hand only to stand and gather her things. Every moment wasted felt like a wasted opportunity for freedom from Jason's grasp. They moved toward the door, but Sarah felt Jason's ominous presence still looming, pressing down on her shoulders like a weight. As they stepped outside, a cool breeze brushed her cheek, startling her from the chaos of her thoughts. Jake swung his arm around her shoulders, pulling her close. "We'll figure this out," he murmured, his breath warm against her ear. Despite the fear that wormed its way through her chest, she felt safe in his embrace. "Right together," she echoed, though a flicker of doubt gnawed within her. They walked in near silence, the streetlights casting a soft glow on the pavement. Sarah's heart raced with more than just fear. There was hope, too. With every step, she considered the face-off against Jason. Would confronting him change anything? Or would it only escalate the madness? "Where are we headed?" Jake finally asked, breaking the silence. "Maybe we could stop at that park?" she suggested. The park was open, public, and offered the anonymity they might need. It was a safe haven, a place where they could strategize without the prying eyes of Jason lurking in the shadows. "Sounds good," Jake said. His voice was calming, like a balm to her racing thoughts. As they settled onto a bench beneath the sprawling branches of a nearby oak, the world felt quieter, as if the trees were guarding their moment. "Okay, what is the plan?" Jake asked, eyes locked on hers, determination etched into his features. Sarah inhaled deeply, centering herself. "I think I need to confront Jason tomorrow. I want to make it clear he can't mess with us." It dawned on her that saying it out loud made it feel more tangible, more possible. Jake looked concerned, his brow knitting in worry. "But he's dangerous, Sarah. What if he doesn't take it well?" "I know. But if I keep letting him dictate my life, I'll never be free," she said, her voice trembling with a mix of fear and strength. "I need to do this. For me. For us." Jake's expression softened as he leaned closer, his arm enclosing her for warmth. "I'm with you, no matter what. But let us think of a way to outsmart him. He seems unpredictable. We need a plan." Plans started brewing. A swirl of ideas flitted through Sarah's mind. They spent the next hour piecing together strategies, weighing the risks, their voices brimming with hope mingled with uncertainty. Jake's analytical mind complemented Sarah's emotional insights, creating a balance between caution and courage. As they stumbled upon what felt like a solid plan, a rush of exhilaration surged through Sarah. Together, they were more potent than she'd ever been alone. "Whatever Jason throws at us, we'll adjust, right?" Jake said firmly. "Exactly," she replied, buoyed by his faith in her. But just as relief washed over them, her phone buzzed in her pocket, shattering the moment. The screen lit up, displaying an unfamiliar number. Sarah's stomach dropped. What if it was Jason? "Who is it?" Jake asked, his brow furrowing. "I don't know. Should I answer?" Jake nodded, his grip tightening around her. "Yeah, maybe it's important. Just stay strong." With a tentative finger, she answered, her heart pounding in time with the seconds stretching out. "Hello?" she said, bracing herself for anything. "Sarah." The voice on the line was deep and husky, sending a shiver down her spine. "It's Jason. We need to talk or else." Her breath caught in her throat, and a wave of dread cascaded over her. "Now what?" Jake asked, eyes wide with concern. As she held the phone tighter, Sarah felt the relentless grip of fear mingle with adrenaline. What was Jason's next move? Would she be able to keep her promise to Jake, or was danger closer than she had ever anticipated? "Stay with me, Jake. No matter what." The real battle was just beginning, and the stakes were higher than ever. Sarah's heart thundered in her chest as Jason's voice echoed in her mind, taunting her. Jake's grip tightened around her as they sat on the bench, the moonlight dancing through swaying branches. "What do you think he wants?" "I don't know," Sarah whispered, voice unsteady. But he's not going to back off peacefully. He's never played fair. She felt a chill sweep through her. Jason had always been volatile, his anger building like a storm. What if this time, he had crossed a line too far? We need to prepare ourselves for anything, Jake said, his voice steady but tinged with an edge of concern. The tension in his jaw was evident, a silent acknowledgement of the fear both shared. Let us not react impulsively. We'll meet him somewhere public, she suggested, thinking. It'll give us an advantage. Jake nodded slowly, his blue eyes assessing her determination. Good idea. Any place in mind? Maybe that coffee shop with the outdoor seating? It can get crowded there, and I can easily call for help if things escalate. Okay, Jake said, but let us make sure we have backup. I can ask a couple of friends to wait nearby, just in case. Sarah felt a flicker of appreciation for his thoughtfulness. I hate that we have to do this, but I'm glad you're with me. No one is going to hurt you while I'm around, he replied fiercely, his passion igniting her spirit. They plodded through the details, discussing possible scenarios and rehearsing their lines, their voices becoming more confident with each word. Through it all, an ember of resolve crackled within Sarah. She was standing up for herself finally, standing with Jake, and that made all the difference. But just as they began to feel the weight of control shifting back into their hands, her phone buzzed again. Sarah glanced down and saw more urgent messages from Jason flooding in, demanding an immediate response. Her hands shook as she opened one. I'm waiting at the park. Don't make me come find you. Panic curled in her gut. He's here, she stammered, heart racing again. He might know we're out here. Then we need to go. Right now, Jake urged, rising from their bench. He snagged her hand in his, leading her down the path away from the darkness. Together, they matched their pace with the heavy thumping of her heart. The park's exit loomed ahead like a beacon, but doubt flickered in Sarah's thoughts. Was she really ready to face Jason? Jake, what if he does something? Sarah asked, dread pooling in her stomach. We won't let him. We'll stick to the plan, he reassured, but the urgency in his tone spoke volumes. Their feet moved faster now, the cool night air mixed with the warmth of their intertwined hands. Just as the park gates came into view, a shadowed figure stepped into their path, blocking their route. Where do you think you're going? Jason's voice cut through the night, smooth and menacing. Stay behind me, Jake said, positioning himself protectively in front of Sarah. Fear surged through her, nearly overwhelming. They were cornered. Jason, Sarah began, her voice trembling despite her resolve. We need to talk, but you're not going to intimidate us. He smirked, leaning casually against a nearby tree. Oh, sweetheart, I wouldn't dream of it. But you're about to be in for a surprise. Each word he spoke set a chill through the air. What does that mean? Sarah demanded, her instinct to stand firm warring with the instinct to flee. Jason stepped closer, a sinister smile creeping across his face. You'll find out soon enough, he taunted, a glimmer of malicious joy lighting up his eyes. Let us go, Sarah, Jake urged, gripping her shoulder. They turned to leave, but her feet felt glued to the ground as Jason's next words stopped her cold. Remember, you can't run forever. I will always find you. With that, they escaped the suffocating tension, but Sarah knew this wasn't over. Not by a long shot. Are you okay? Jake asked, glancing back at her, concern evident on his face. Not even close, Sarah admitted, her breath hitching in her throat. But deep down, a fire burned in her chest. She was tired of being scared, tired of running. This fight was just beginning. Was she strong enough to face Jason when he came for her again? What would truly happen when she stood up for herself? The answers loomed just out of reach, and tomorrow would prove to be a turning point or a treacherous descent. All she could do was prepare, secure in the knowledge that she wasn't alone anymore. But would that be enough? The dawn broke over Chicago, the first rays of sunlight casting gentle warmth through Sarah's window. But as she lay awake, anxiety twisted in her stomach. Today was the day she faced Jason. She reached for her phone, checking the messages and finding none. He was silent for now, but that only fueled her fear. What is he planning? She whispered to herself, turning to Jake's side. She smiled at the memory of their connection last night, the laughter and the spark of hope. He had supported her through it all, standing together against the storm. It made her heart swell. No matter what happens today, I'll have him, she thought, and steeled her resolve. They met at the coffee shop, the bustling atmosphere more comforting than she expected. The smell of roasted beans and baked pastries wrapped around them like an embrace. "Are you ready?" Jake asked, his eyes searching hers. Confidence surged within her, though it was mixed with nerves. "As ready as I'll ever be," she replied, straightening her back. Jason arrived minutes after, the air turning cold as he strode in confidently, a sneer plastered on his face. But this time, Sarah took a breath and stepped forward, Jake firmly at her side. She felt the warmth of his presence, a beacon of support. "Jason, we need to talk," she declared, her voice steady despite the tremor inside. "This ends today. I will no longer let you manipulate me or threaten us." His laugh echoed off the cafe walls, but instead of intimidation, she felt a surge of empowerment. "You think you can stand up to me?" he taunted, but she stood taller, unfazed. "It's not about standing up to you. It's about taking my life back." Jake's touch on her shoulder offered silent encouragement. "Sarah's right. You won't control her anymore, and you certainly won't mess with our lives. It's over." Jason's expression flickered from amusement to irritation. "You have no idea the consequences of your little rebellion. I want to just walk away." But Sarah saw the slightest crack in his facade this time. He was growing desperate. "Maybe, but the fear you've instilled in me is gone," she said, voice rising confidently. "I'm no longer afraid of you, Jason. You have no power anymore." The energy shifted. She could feel it. This was her moment, and she wasn't backing down. "You're bluffing," he snapped, but doubt creeped into his voice. The more resolved she felt, the more it appeared he was realizing he had lost control. "We won't let you threaten us. If you try to ruin us again, we'll go to the police. This behavior isn't just toxic, it's criminal," Jake added, his intensity piercing the tension. Jason's face darkened, and he opened his mouth to retaliate, but Sarah interrupted. "You've hurt enough people, including me. You need to understand there are boundaries you cannot cross." For a moment, silence hung between them like a thick fog. And then, with a clenched jaw and a half-hearted smirk, Jason stepped back. "We'll see how long this bravado lasts, Sarah. I know how to bring you down." He turned sharply on his heel, leaving behind a whirlwind of tension as the door swung shut behind him. Sarah felt as if a weight had been lifted. She turned to Jake, and relief washed over her. "Did we really just do that?" Jake pulled her into a tight embrace, and they both let out soft laughter, a sound of freedom. "Yes, we did." But deeper emotions swirled as they stepped back into the light of day. "Does this mean he'll come back? Will he try to punish me?" She could still see the shadows lingering, aware the fight wasn't entirely over. Jake took her hands gently. "He might come back, but we face him together. You've shown incredible strength today, Sarah. I believe in you and us. Anyone who tries to mess with us will learn what it means to challenge our love." Tears of gratitude filled her eyes. "I couldn't have done it without you. You gave me the strength I didn't know I had." "Love changes everything," he said softly, brushing a thumb across her cheek. With a shimmering smile, she realized it was true. The pain and deceit in her past had led her to this moment, this profound connection rooted in authenticity and courage. Maybe they could redefine their story, crafting it with honesty instead of chaos. Days turned into weeks, and while Jason did attempt to re-enter their lives with petty harassment, his power waned as they continued to stand together. With each confrontation, their bond thickened. They sought the help they needed, supported one another in their individual journeys, and nothing could break through their newfound unity. One evening, back where they first met at the diner, Sarah and Jake shared a milkshake, laughter echoing against the familiar backdrop. The warmth of the diner enveloped them like a comforting blanket. "Can you believe we started this with Sabotage?" Sarah mused, a smile dancing on her lips. "Yeah, well, life is full of unexpected turns," Jake replied, his eyes twinkling. "But I wouldn't change our story for anything." With that, they lifted their milkshakes in a toast in acknowledgement of battles fought and love found in the most unexpected way. Here's to finding love even in chaotic beginnings. Cheers to that. Strengthened by their love and a solid foundation of trust, they sealed the moment with a sweet kiss, ready to face whatever life threw at them next together. Now, in this story of love, chaos, and courage, you need to subscribe now. This is the moment to show your support so you don't miss our next exclusive stories. Please leave a like now to feed the algorithm and help us grow. And don't forget to comment your reactions, feelings, and thoughts about this ending. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this amazing transformation. Don't wait not even one more second to spread the word.